Yokoya is a lonely loser who misses his mama's jugs who left to get some milk. But his life changes for the better when a plotful assassin asks him to employ her and be his master. It was a normal day for Yokoya, who's sleazing around, sleeping till noon. But suddenly someone rang his doorbell, forcing him to get up. When he goes to the door, on the camera, he sees a maid who looks like emo Violet Evergarden.
私を使用人として雇ってはいただけないでしょうか
Asking him to employ her as his maid. After Yokoya lets her in, he lets her sit on his couch, gives her a drink, and starts thinking to himself that she's here either to sell his kidneys or to sell him some happy white powder. He asks her about her previous experiences as a maid, but instead she tells him that she worked as an assassin before who targeted people who rebelled against her master. The same master sent her here. Yokoya thinks she's joking, but after realizing she's not, Yokoya gets nervous. He asked about her boss and his relation to his family, and she starts explaining how her boss once owned a goldfish who had a baby that turned into a dog who looked for Nemo, and that guy was the friend of Yokoya's mom. Yokoya slaps her hand out of frustration, but quickly realizes he's screwed up, potentially making her mad. So he changes the subject and asks her about her specialty method of assassinating people. Then they go outside and she pulls out her knives. There's a backflip, eats the knives accurately at the tree and shows her specialty, which is knife throwing. She probably smiles and explains that knife throwing is just one out of many of her abilities as an assassin. But despite having seen her amazing abilities, Yokoya tells her that he can't employ the female John Wick as a servant. While it does upset her, she understands his decision, apologizes for taking his valuable time, and leaves. As she walks through the door, Yokoya falls to his knees in disbelief at what just happened. But when he looks down, you find something. Meanwhile, the maid is walking by herself without a purpose. They can do herself what she needs to do next. She looks back, expecting Yokoya to chase her, but gets disappointed to see no one there. However, just as she's crossing the train track, Yokoya screams out for her with the bell in his hand, stating that she left it behind. When the maid turns around, Truck-kun is about to send Yokoya to an isekai, but she goes flying raging and saves Yokoya from his death. A mic before the maid looks adorable with blushes on her cheeks, and Yokoya thanks her for saving him. She apologizes for saving him, stating she never saved people before, and that her heart is beating fast. Yokoya hands her the bell and she thanks him for giving it back before she leaves again. However, as she's walking away, Yokoya changes his mind and tells her that he needs her help with cleaning. Back home, Yokoya is in shock seeing all the knives she has as she's unpacking her stuff, while the maid is blabbing about how her knives could have stopped the rumbling. Yokoya stops her and tells her he needs her to clean his trash, not cleaning the streets from the 3-0s with daddy issues. However, she only has cleaning corpses in her mind, and Yokoya tries his best to explain that it's a different kind of cleaning and that he needs a housekeeper. She asks him if he will really hire her as long as she does his chores, and he agrees. Later, Yokoya comes back to a mess with her wet, holding a broken mop and a bucket on her head. She starts apologizing profusely and suddenly slips from the wet floor, but quickly maneuvers herself to land like Spider-Man while still having the bucket smack her head. After what he has seen, Yokoya asks her if she's actually clumsy, and she apologizes for her mistakes while feeling ashamed of herself. Yokoya takes the bucket off her head, gives her a towel, and tells her that she can start learning from now on, with him helping alongside her. He asked her to continue, and she cutely nodded. Hours later, the place is squeaky clean and Yokoya praises her for her hard work, making her happy. Then Yokoya sees the time, realizes it's time for dinner, and asks her if she can cook. She looks down like a poor dog, and Yokoya assures her that it's okay as he will be doing the cooking while she takes a bath in the bathtub. The maid thinks about Yokoya while blushing, getting herself wet from the water inside out. Meanwhile, Yokoya is outside, thinking out loud to himself, feeling anxious and not knowing what to do when a plowful emo maid is taking a bath just meters away from him. He gets heated thinking about the maid coming out with only wearing towels, but she comes out in full uniform, disappointing Yokoya. Then they start dinner, and while Yokoya warns her, the maid feels confident and starts chopping the cabbages like they're human bodies. Yokoya pulls out some ramen and fried pork, and it confuses her on what fried pork is. She explains that she might have eaten them before, but she has never been much of a foodie to care much about what she eats. The maid states that eating is only to sustain life, and flavors are not important. But Yokoya assures her that one bite of the fried pork will make her cream and release happy noises like she's in Food Wars. Yokoya feels confident in these discounted fried pork and splits it into 2 portions for himself and the maid, but he realizes that he doesn't know her name. The maid tells Yokoya that she doesn't have a name and that her master usually gives her a name. At first he wants to name her Big Steve 9000, but chooses to give her a name later after getting some inspiration. Then they start eating, and after her first taste of the fried pork, she still thinks that she can't tell what tasty is like, triggering her memory of a dark past. But this time she feels warm inside and tells Yokoya that his meat tastes delicious. She tells Yokoya that both the food and him as a person feel warmed of her, but he doesn't hear what she says and tells her that he has prepared a room for her to stay in. Yokoya tells her that he prepared the room beautifully just for her, and after hearing this, she remembers in her darker past with her bathing in blood, but unlike those times, she wants her new master to treat her with care. Yokoya notices her pork doesn't have sauce unlike his, so he hands the sauce to put on her pork, and after she takes a bite, she feels the umami in her mouth, making her squeal out happy noises to the almighty tonkatsu sauce. Later at night, Yokoya wakes up crying after he had a bad dream, but then his stomach starts growling. He walks down to eat something, but suddenly a voice comes out from his kitchen. He gets scared, thinking that the maid is plotting something, and when he looks inside, he sees the maid snacking on the tonkatsu sauce. They both freeze awkwardly before she tries to apologize for being a new sauce addict, but Yokoya tells her it's okay and asks if she's also hungry. Then Yokoya whacks out a saucy hot pot and they start eating, which she is really enjoying. The maid asks Yokoya if he is having nightmares, and after the answers, she reveals that she heard someone sleep talking in his room. She thinks that an assassin entered his room, so she enters with nods in her hands. But instead of an enemy, she sees Yokoya sleeping with tears in his eyes. Yokoya feels embarrassed and she states that he was calling out for his mom in his sleep, which embarrasses him even more. She tries to cheer her up, stating that she also had a dream where the sauce talked to her, saying that she can lick the sauce, all she wants is that he will stuff her up. But before she starts licking, she wakes up from her sleep. However, she states that it's the first time she dreamt about something apart from assassination, and that it's the first time she wanted to continue a dream, unlike her other dreams. She feels upset that Yokoya has a nightmare on the same day, and that she can't comfort him. Yokoya confesses that he has this dream of her mom leaving him for a new daddy, and that he will start crying if he wakes up not lying on his mother's lap. After hearing this, the maid offers him her lap to lie on, and when Yokoya rejects her offer, she gets sad, thinking that she can never comfort people, only murdering them. Suddenly, Yokoya lies down, breaking her darkness, and they both feel warm with each other. Yokoya looks at her face, realizes she's looking back at him, and he sleeps right on her warm and plumpy lap. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about this anime recap by liking, sharing, and commenting, and please subscribe to the channel to help us reach 5,000 subscribers.
Take